U.S. Air Force. He has 23 years of service for our country, and he has used his language skills both in the military and in volunteer work as a medical interpreter. He's also begun to do some volunteer work here in Hawaii. You can read all this on the information sheet about him. But most of all, I want to say he is the most amazing human being when it comes to thinking about language and community. He began working with the Roadmap last spring at the Multilingual Career Day. And I simply feel his energy, and I think you will too. Please help me welcome him to the stage.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me here. I hope you don't mind me reading a little bit. How about that thunder last night, right? It is a rainy morning. Thank you for being here. I'm really proud to be sharing this environment with you. My name is Ariel Chadron. Like she said, you know, I did 24 years in the military, 23 years and 11 months, who's counting, right? And, you know, I got out and got an opportunity to come to the Spanish department where I figured, hey, why don't I get ready for my next step after the military? And they housed me in, and they're providing me an opportunity to have a TA-ship with them. And now I'm teaching at the Spanish department and training to be a teacher, right? So that's really good. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. And hopefully what I bring to you guys explains how everything ties up, everything that I want to say ties up together to what we're doing here today. Born and raised in Puerto Rico, and it is a U.S. territory, right? So I want to share my experience with you again and show you how that's connected to what we're doing. In Puerto Rico, English is a second language, right? So when we get our education there, we get education in English and Spanish. We know how to read and write really well in English. So I graduated, and I could do that. But when I got out of the island, I didn't know how to have a conversation with you guys, not yet. So the first thing I had to do was to speed it up. So I married at 21 years old in Puerto Rico, and then decided to leave the island and join the military, right? What a change. There I was. I took all the entry tests in the military, of course. I passed with flying colors. That gave me the opportunity to compete and get there. But like I said, my listening skills were not that good, and my speaking skills are really not that great either right now. You can imagine what they were 24 years before, right? Basic training happened. What happened then? You know, I saw everybody run that way, and I ran. I had a buddy that drugged me that was bilingual. He helped me out a lot, but that led to a bunch of situations that were pretty funny, and I'll bring you one of them. They gave us 3 minutes out there in the field to eat an MRE. Does anyone know what an MRE is? A meal ready to eat? Yeah, I see a couple of hands. They're terrible, right? But when you're hungry, it tastes really good, right? So I'm eating this thing out there, and I'm thinking I'm gonna be really fast. I look around and I don't know anyone that's right beside me. Somehow I had separated from my group. I don't know how that happened. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what's gonna happen now? So I put down the MRE slowly, right? Don't make eye contact, get down, and boom. Drill sergeant gets me, right? So he calls another drill sergeant. Now I had 2 drill sergeants yelling at me at the same time, making me do push-ups, right? That's called a smoking session, right? 1, 2, why? Because they're smoking you, right? Yeah. All of that happened because I needed to work on my comprehension skills that I didn't have back then, right? So after basic training and advanced training, guess where I got stationed? Hawaii, right? The land of the free, but it's also beautiful and tropical, and it gives you different air to what Puerto Rico was. I brought my wife over to Oahu, right? And I told her, hey, you're living in Hawaii now. And she's like, oh, man, great, right? So he jumped on the plane. And when we got here, we used the programs that were here for developing our language skills that we needed. First, we went and used federally funded programs over at Hickam, and we took those classes together. And that went really well. And after that, she decided to go to Leeward, and she started using the ESL language programs that they had out there. She ended up graduating with a degree in accounting. And you can imagine how that little piece right there, it didn't take us long to get on board with the program and work on the language skills that we didn't have, but we didn't have it before. So that had a monetary value to it. But more than monetary value and upwards mobility that provided for us, language, it's who we were, and it's who we are right now. So if it weren't for my employers in the Army that gave me the opportunity to go and get better and pointed me to where those programs were, if it weren't for one of my sponsors in the military, Sergeant Murphy, I remember his kindness and his encouragement to get better. Hey, I know you're not from here, but I know we've seen this happen before. Use our programs and you get better. It would have been a lot harder for us. So we always had people in the community that were here supporting and encouraging us. And for that, we'll always be grateful. So I don't have to tell you guys professionals about that because you know what you do. But when my wife and I started working in the community, started looking around in Hawaii, we learned about how culturally diverse the place was, right? So in Puerto Rico, we got different Dominican groups and all that stuff, but it's not as diverse as over here. So we learned to love the islands for that. In Hawaii, we found a place to respect and to be respected for what we were and who we were. And the mix of cultures, again, was welcoming and supporting. And I'll give you an example. I got to Eva Beach, and we live in a small apartment out there. And my neighbor Floyd, local boy, who was also a veteran, he always found a way to connect with me, right? Because he knew what we were going through. He's been in the military before. And talking story with him, I learned that he used to put butter in the rice to make it sticky. And I didn't understand it back in the day, but he's like, Navy rice is the worst, right? I've been in Navy bases, and I can tell you, yeah, that's a true statement. So when you make that connection with people in the community, there's that person-to-person motivation that you get to feel integrated. And I felt it. So here's another story. Going back to my early Army days, I told my drill sergeant, hey, my wife is coming for basic training graduation, and he decided to take her in to his house. This is my drill sergeant that's yelling at me during the day, right? Takes my wife in, shows her around town while all that stuff is doing, and she can only communicate in broken English at that time. So that's a spirit that I try to carry on through my life. And as soon as I was in a position to give back, I started volunteering in the community as part of my military mandate, because the military likes you to get involved in the community, right? I found a nonprofit clinic in the town that I was living at, and they needed Spanish interpreters for migrant workers that were there, and that this was Spanish, right? So I jumped at the opportunity. I used the language to touch people there directly, and I found out that I liked that feeling, right? But then what touches me most about that experience, one night, after working 8 hours and getting out and going to volunteer at that place, a doctor calls and says, hey, I need you to come interpret. I walk into the room like any other room, right? Okay, this is going to be a routine check. And the guy that I was translating, as the conversation came, matured, I realized he just got a new kidney, a kidney transplant. So right there, I realized that I was lucky enough to be in that place using language for a community program that we were all working together to enact, right? So it was a life-changing event. So the simple act of saying a couple of words in another language to help someone in their own language shows that you care for them. It shows that we care about their world, that you appreciate them, that you're reassuring them, that you want them to move forward like I experienced with me and my wife. So later on, I had the opportunity to use the Spanish in the military, like I was talking to this gentleman out there. I looked for the opportunity to use Spanish in the military. It's pretty hard, but I found it. And I found myself interpreting for air crews on flight lines and doing the most mundane things, asking for power cards and gas and all that other stuff. But I also had the chance later to go and do the same interpreting for high-ranking officials. And I saw how that had an impact on how our policy gets applied and I got the opportunity to represent our country in my language, so I kind of turned it around, right? My level 1 language for my SLA people over here. And that gave me a sense of pride, right, for representing my country. So that was in the mainland. But we were still thinking, hey, you know, we need to make it back to Hawaii because we like Hawaii, because we know what Hawaii is, right? Because the people. So in 2015, I saw the opportunity, jumped on a plane and came with my wife for my last military assignment. And I've been bouncing around units and around services because I was in the Army and the Air Force too. So after I retired, I finished my bachelor's. I retired in 2018. Finished my bachelor's with the Spanish department over here, and they told me, hey, if you hurry up, we'll give you a T-ship. I said yes, ended up taking GIS classes at 300 level that I had no idea. Graduated, and now they found a way to put me in their department, and I'm teaching, which I wanted to become a teacher, right? So I had the opportunity to do that, and I'm still in teacher training, so I'm learning a lot from you guys. So while I've been here in the university, I had the opportunity to work in the Language Roadmap Career Development Day. That was last year. A couple semesters ago, feels like 20 years. So as I was there, I looked around at the young people at the event, and I saw all these tables. You know, I saw the Hawaiian people, the Koreans, the Spanish, all these languages, Japanese. We were there emphasizing and cultivating how important language is to care and support our community to move the state forward. And that's what you guys do. So we are all doing this together, right? You know it. The last story I'm going to tell you, it's about a young American called Michael, who's in my Spanish class, right? He was born here in Hawaii, and then he went out to Tonga. So he knows 2 languages already, and he's in my class learning a third language, right? What a guy. So he comes to me, he says, hey, you know, like, I'm thinking about joining the military. We talked a little bit. I went home, I did a little research, came back. We sat down, talked about it. He just left and thanked me and didn't hear about him for a little bit until the other class. Guess who wrote me an email on Veterans Day? Michael, right? And the email said, I'm getting teary here. Thank you for your service. But it also says, may God bless your family. And he did that in Spanish. Boom, right? This language thing is coming back to you and paying out with dividends, right? So there's that connection again, you know, using language to pay it forward whenever you can. It feels good, right? So try to do that. I'm also involved in the state initiative for immigration, and I just did that with the law department over here. I don't know what that's going to take me, but I know that every little thing that we do counts, right? So when you get together today to tackle the state challenges and to think about how grateful me and my wife are that you had those programs back then. Imagine what the programs you can come up with in the future would be to help people get to where they need to get. So also think about kindness and language and how that helps us reach our goals. And that's all I have for you guys. I hope that you have a very productive symposium. I'm going to do like a ninja, throw a ball, and just walk out of the stage. Thank you all for everything.